Welcome to the Talkback of Porch conversation. And so, if y'all haven't seen the film already, I invite you after this talkback to go and look at the film. So there might be a few spoilers in there for those who are on. So this film was originally a stage play, and it was performed at Texas Advocates for Justice event, the Night Out for Safety and Liberation, and it was sponsored by the Ella Baker Center. And so this film deals with homelessness, safety, and community power. And for those who watched the film, who haven't gotten a chance to watch the film, you can click the link in my bio, and or you can go to YouTube and just type in Porch Conversation, a short film. Hey, what's up, Ashley? So here we are with the cast. This is the talkback of the film. So those who watched it already, this will be a very good experience for you. So we'll go into the introductions of the cast. First we have Caribbean Luellen. She played the cop, and she's originally from Memphis, Tennessee, and she currently resides in Houston, Texas. She is a middle school educator and a coach. She is also the founder of her own business called Caribbean Essentials LLC, and she's a member of Texas Advocates for Justice. Tracy Vigilance is on the line. What up, Tracy? She's from Houston, Texas, and she's a graduate from Prairie View University. She's an actor, painter, violinist, and business owner of Coco Natasha Jewelry Company. And we have Noxid. He's born in East Texas, raised in Houston. Noxid is an educator, actor, writer, and filmmaker. He is a proud graduate of Texas Southern University, and when not teaching, he enjoys performing arts and working with his youth mentorship program. And so, we'll just hop on right into the discussion. One of the things that, when looking at the play Porch Conversation, it was some things that stood out within this play, and what this play did now converted into a short film. What you will see is that it talked about a lot of conditions that was happening right now in our lives, with the world. And so Nina Simone says an artist's duty is to reflect the times. And so I just want to ask the cast here, how does this film to you reflect the times that we're living in today?
Yeah, I feel like it's a very appropriate time, with the recession going on. We just getting out of the pandemic. A lot of people have lost their jobs. They're struggling, The play is about a homeless guy who I play, named Leland Jackson. A lot of people have been forced to be homeless since the pandemic, losing jobs, catching COVID, just not having those resources provided, and having people frown up on them for needing assistance. So it's a very important play that's very relevant to our community, my community, your community, and what's going on all over Houston, Texas right now, because there are hundreds, I would even say thousands of homeless people out on the streets, just needing that bit of help and assistance that Miss Lunell displayed in the play.
Exactly. And so that was one thing that I really, when even writing this play and just looking at, even my work with Texas Advocates for Justice was looking at, what does this say about society today? What does it say about, the criminalization of people who are homeless? What resources are actually available instead of, the first, Dorothy, the character in the play, helping Leland and trying to figure out, what are some resources that's available to help with this condition. Her first mindset was to just, call the police. And that's so prevalent in society because, as we said at the end of the film, it's over hundreds of people that's locked up, that's incarcerated and that are homeless. So what are we doing with this? What are we doing to actually help the homeless community? What resources are we providing? And are we ourselves actively, trying to help these people, instead of passing judgment and saying, well, we don't want you sleeping here. We don't want you, around us, well then how are we helping them out to be able to get on their feet? Caribbean, did you have anything to chime in? And the question was, how does this film reflect the times that we're living in today?
What I want to say is that I feel like what we did was basically give people a window into the world of the black and brown people. Basically looking through a window, and not just a short play that was put together to make people laugh, but it was literally a window into the world of the black and brown people in America today. That scene is a typical scene, and it's sad when you actually think about it, because that actually happens, that actually goes on. You know what I'm saying? And just overall, I feel like looking at that and knowing, from my point of view, just being the cop, like I know being in those shoes got to be tough, because at the end of the day, you have to go home and you got to really, really think about that. Now, some of the cops probably don't, but to think about the fact that you sit up there and you act like you just had no kind of remorse or nothing, no feelings for somebody who's basically telling you they have nothing, I have nothing. And you're just quoting the law, per se, telling you I'm just doing my job. So that was very tough. That was a hard one. That was just kind of just sit there and really let that resonate. But that was my view on it.
And I like that you brought up your role as a cop and saying, that it was a lack of emotion, because oftentimes, when we look in society, when we look at how the police deals with certain issues, are they dealing with the issue from a human perspective, or are they coming from a perspective of, I have to do this because this is my job? And so that was one thing that I actually was going to bring up and ask you all too, was that, in the role of playing the cop, and the role of, playing Dorothy, in the play with, with the role that Tracy played. And Tracy, let me add you on to this. And so within playing those roles, sometimes we look at, oh, well, the cop is just doing his job, and so it becomes not that person. Like when you're talking about the police, it's not really the police, it's not really that person, but it's the structure of policing that says, it doesn't allow people the capability to actually use human emotions. When I have to abide by the law, this is the law. If you're homeless, then too bad, and so what? And that's oftentimes, what happens in a lot of situations that we see, in our, like you said, Caribbean, in our black and brown communities. And so just the channel that, character, I know it must have been tough to just completely disconnect. Tracy, did you want to weigh on the conversation? We were saying how reflect the times that we're living in today.
What I've noticed about what we see in our community is, what we'll probably get in later on is Miss Dorothy has been helped by Miss Luellen, just how much the homeless man was helped by her too. It just shows that not only do we have to focus on ourselves as a community, but our community as a whole, like no matter what level we're at. And it definitely shows that in our community, because we can see that in different levels of where each one of us are, and the homeless population is definitely growing, especially now that with everything we have right now.
Very it shows what our community can be. We can either go negative or we can go towards the positive as a community. And I think what I like most about this particular film is that it shows the community coming together and using their power to say, that we're not gonna send somebody to jail the police in our communities. What we need in our communities is we need to come together and help each other and figure out, where are these resources? How do we help each other, get on their feet? And so that's the whole, messaging of it. We do have a lot of issues. We have issues with homelessness. We have issues with policing in our community. But when it's time for us to look at these issues, is how do we respond to these issues that really shapes our community and begins to transform it from the inside out. And so I'll ask this to you, Tracy and Dre, because Caribbean answered this question already in her response to the first one. What role does your character play in society?
I go. Well, I'll share first. The role of leading, like I said, when Nikki first asked me to be a part of the play Porch Conversation, and she sent me the script over, and I saw what the character was. As an actor, it was there's a first for everything with playing roles, and my thought was, oh, I've never played a homeless guy before. Let me get into this role because I observe as a human being, I observe people all the time, and I observe homeless people a lot. It may be kind of weird to say, but I've always wanted to play a homeless character, a homeless guy as a character, as an actor. Of course, I never want to be homeless in real life, but just seeing how a homeless person functions from day to day, whenever I'm downtown or on the streets, I live in Third Ward, I see a whole lot of homeless people, just seeing their mannerisms, their characteristics of that. I feel like it's a daily thing that people see all the time. So when I chose my wardrobe for that character, I wanted to look as gritty and poor and homeless as possible, not having anything. So I feel like the character plays a huge role in society because we see homeless people every day. I've been through the McDonald's line and other fast food restaurants, having people come up to my window when I go to a corner store or something. Hey, brother, you got some change? Begging for food. Just trying to survive from day to day. So we're going to see homeless people regardless of where we are because, the reality of it is people as human beings fall on hard times, and need that helping hand, need that assistance to get back on their feet. So I really enjoyed getting into the mind temporarily, even if it was for 10 minutes, playing a homeless guy. And I would love to expand that role to bring more awareness to the homeless population, to the homeless community. And make, more things more aware because they do lock them up in reality and throw them in jail for doing basically nothing on the streets. They'd rather lock them up and throw them in jail than trying to provide assistance for homeless people. That's a simple solution for them instead of taking part and getting them off their feet, providing them resources, trying to get them a job, trying to get them cleaned up. The quickest way for, them, the police and law enforcement, is to just throw them in jail. So it's a very real play for me. It had a lot of truthful moments. Although it was a bit comedic, it had its truthful moments.
Thank you, Joy. You want to touch on it? Your character, Tracy. I thought you Dorothy.
Yeah, definitely her. I guess her role she plays in society is just I guess what we have to admit is not only there are people like Miss Luellen that's willing to help and willing to actually build a community. So you see that with her and Luellen, and also Miss Green, my character. But for my character, you see the ones who are oblivious to someone else being a human too. Like for her, she was able to accept help from Luellen, but she needed help paying her light bill at that time. But when it came to someone else, just because of how I guess how far down his class was, how far down his struggle was compared to hers, she definitely saw a disconnect when we are as humans. So I feel like that's just a part of, human beings. We have some of us that have that disconnect where it's like, well, I can't be there, or I haven't been there, so I don't feel this man's pain, or I don't for me to contribute to his life because they don't see that for me like they did in their own self when they needed help. Like when Miss Green didn't help, she was able to, that was a backstory, but she was able to go to Luellen, or she was able to receive that help. But seeing another human struggle, you see him as a nuisance. I guess that her role in the play just shows what role what some people play in society is just being able to play that role in the disconnect where our homeless is not part of us as a community. So I think that's where I was wrapping it up at.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I agree. You know what I mean? Like, there is that disconnect that comes into place. You know, someone that might be struggling worse than you, or you know, it is how society has been set up. You know, with these economic barriers and this division that happens within society itself. You know, if somebody is homeless, that person is looked down more on somebody that's just struggling to get by. Because somebody could be, living in an apartment or living with someone and may be perceiving to have somewhere to stay, or they're clean every day, or have, nice clothes on, or whatever every day. But really, we don't know that real person's situation. But that person, we have some people that would still look at themselves as, I'm above that person because they're on the streets. And not knowing that, we've all had to have somebody to help us. So what makes us better than the next person? And so those struggles that exist within society, that economic division, and like you were saying, Tracy, we don't see each other, as a community. And I think this play really did touch on it because, we filmed this play, also, turned it into a short film, but we filmed it in Fifth Ward. And it's supposed to be, centered in a black community where these type of things happen. But the problem is that even in the black community itself, within, where we're at, it's still people that will look at and say, oh, well, that person, they got less than they have less than what I do. I'm not going to give, like you said, Dre, we might see somebody at McDonald's or whatever, and look down on them type of people. You know what I mean? Right. You didn't per se say, that you look down on them, but then we see people that are, homeless every day. You know what I mean? And so these type of situations that exist in society, and I think you brought up an excellent point, Dre, is like, what do we do with people who have nowhere to go? Oftentimes the response has been to lock them people up, throw them in jail. There's even a problem in Harris County with mental health. 80% of the people that are in Harris County jails right now have a mental health condition. And hundreds of the people that's in Harris County are homeless. So, we're locking up people that we don't want, that we just want to throw away. And how many people are in there because of addiction that stem from issues such as poverty, which deals also with homelessness. And so, I think that y'all hinted on this. Dre, I think you've hinted on this more so. But as artists and Caribbean, I'll ask you this question. So, as artists, what is our role in advocacy? And you can answer as, your work that you do with the youth. So, using our talents and our gifts, what is our role in society, according to you, Caribbean?
Yeah, I feel like our role is to make sure that we educate more specifically the youth, because that's who's gonna one day really run the world and lead us. So I think it's our duty to educate them, whether it's through arts or athletics or whatever it may be, and especially arts, because I feel like there we get to really express and show them some of the things that they might not be privy to or whatever. But I definitely feel like our job in advocacy is to educate the youth. So the saying that I like to go by is, if you know better, you do better. So the more that we know, we need to give back. If we know better, we can't just sit back and watch, oh, Lord, here they go again doing that. Instead, let's step in and say, hey, let me tell you a better way to do this, or let me show you what's really going on so you can understand why you shouldn't probably go that route. I think that's our main job, is to educate them. And me being an educator, that's going to be probably at the center of my what I believe. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing in advocacy is to educate others so that we can bring about this change that we want to see.
Thank you for that. I definitely agree. Dre, what is the role? What as artists? What is our role in advocacy?
I agree with what Caribbean said. Our role is to basically be at the forefront, to be as transparent and vulnerable as possible to these youth coming up and let them know our position in society. We can't just sit in the background. We have to step up and we have to find solutions to issues that are going on in our community. It's our duty. A lot of people say they're not advocates for anything, but if you like that quote once said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So I feel like we have to stand up and tackle and face the problems that are going on in our community. I feel like it's our duty, not only a citizen, but as a black person and whatever other race you are. If you have this issue going on in your community with police brutality, homelessness, whatever the case may be, racism, all sorts of things, you have to be an advocate for that. I feel like it's your duty as a human being to be an advocate for that issue because it can happen to you. We never know when it may happen to you or somebody that you know that you may be close to.
Yep.
So like we have to stand up and be there for each other and for these issues because if not us, then who?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's what it's about. It's about standing up. It's about, using our power, using our gift. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm trying to plug this thing in. It's about using our power and using our gift to make a difference and educating people. What power, oftentimes a lot of us feel that we are powerless, that there is nothing that we can do. But when we actually look at it, look at all of these talents and gifts that many of us are blessed with. But the problem is, how often do we use it? How often do we use our talents and our gifts? Tracy, did you want to answer this question as well? Did you want to chime in too as well?
No, I just loved both. Y'all can't see me, but I was smiling for both Caribbeans and Joy's response. I think they answered it pretty well on. So I think I look good after that question. Yeah.
Thank you. And and I think really too, what this film does as well. And I'm gonna get back on camera for those who are looking. I just had to plug this phone in. Okay, here we go. For those that that are looking at this, everyone doesn't have to be an artist. All of us are blessed in our perspective, in our different gifts that we're blessed with. But it comes down to what are we using with the resources that we have? What are we using with the gifts that we have and the talents that we have to make a difference? I've heard the argument before too that art doesn't really impact society. That art really doesn't do anything when it comes to advocacy. But I question that and I challenge that because if we look at artists such as Nina Simone, if we look at artists such as Tupac, if we look at artists such as Bob Marley, a lot of these artists use their art to educate people at the same time, like Dead Prez, like Immortal Technique, like Erykah Badu. They use their art to challenge what was happening in society and to raise awareness of what was happening because without there being enough care and attention on the problem, like Dre said, we can see homeless people every day. We see police brutality every day, but how etched into it in our minds and to our souls is it? Because it hasn't changed, and it comes a time where people are talking about it at this instance when it's blown across social media, but then it's quickly dropped. But who's really constantly educating people and exposing what's actually going on and continuing to happen? Because there's a lot of cases that we don't know about. There's a lot of history, a lot of our history that we don't know about. There's a lot happening when it, deals with homelessness in our community that we don't know about. And so we can also use art as porch conversations to shape an outcome that we want to see. And, present that because have we seen an outcome where the community told the police no and took power, And so when I was writing that, that's what I wanted to show. I wanted to end it with empowerment. with saying, okay, look, here's an example of a community that took control. And though it has its comedic moments, but the message in it is that when the community came together, even Dorothy changed her mind originally from how she was thinking, you know, and the grandmother, Grandma Lunell, she stood up, and said, hey, well, instead of us complaining about the problem, instead of us calling the police, what are we going to do about it? And so I think that art is very powerful. It's a very, powerful medium that we can use to advocate for justice. And so I'm going to, I'll do one more question and then we'll get on to the closer to the ending of it. But this is for everybody. So what are some powerful moments in the film that really connected with you? And
Is just a powerful moment. Is, I believe, a shift that needs to change in our community. Oftentimes police get caught on individuals, and it goes the complete opposite of what happened in the film. With Miss Green saying she's not going to press charges, and the police, although it wasn't extensive, but the officer, said, Mr. Leland, if I could have you called again, I'm going to take you to jail. So she tried to reason with and talk to Leland. Although the conversation was not extensive, you could tell she was compassionate for Leland. Like, she was just doing her job as a police officer. It wasn't race involved. She didn't see color at that moment. All she saw was a lady called the police. She was dispatched out to see what was going on, and that's what was going on. So she didn't try to be hurtful. She could have, that whole thing with Leland interacting and Miss Lunell pointing the broom at her could have went completely left. Both of them, in reality, both of them would have been shot or killed. But in that given moment, that was powerful for the police to take another direction, to just simply show some compassion, that show that she cared in that moment. But like I said, in reality, it doesn't always go that way.
Right, exactly, and man, that's very powerful. What you brought up, Dre, because when I was writing that, I was thinking about that too. Like, usually if a grandma's doing all that, they gonna be shot and killed.
Right.
And I think
they don't care what age, gender, how old you are, what color. If you doing that, you point something in the police face, it's gonna go left.
And I think too, the fact that it was a black woman and there was an officer, which doesn't really make anything better, because as we say, our own people would do the same thing too. But I think because it was a black officer, I think the outcome was more acceptable. Because if you switch that and make that a white man, they all probably would have been dead. Even the person who made the call would have probably ended up dead.
Right.
And so that would have been a completely different outcome. But I think because it was a black woman, it was somewhere in her experience where she could relate to that. You know what I mean? And so that would go into another question, even about community policing. Even though, me myself, I don't necessarily believe in, having police anyways, not government police, but and not people policing each other anyways, but just violence interrupters or some other type of programs. But when we look at that, what Dre mentioned, that was a very powerful moment, and I never thought about that. That officer could have and probably would have got away if she, got away with just locking them up or killing both of them, and been innocent at the end of the day. But it's like, then we have to think, when she arrived to that scene, what about that officer that made her have some type of compassion? Because at the moment she was cold, like Caribbean was saying, her character, when she got into character, she seen her as a very cold person that was disconnected. And while that disconnect was there, it was still some type of connection because she was black, and she, in a way, you can tell by her choices that she empathized with the situation. She empathized with Leland, but it was like, I have to be a police officer at this moment. I have to keep my job, and I got to be tough on you. but it was still some type of empathy that was there. And thank you, Jay, for pointing it out. I never thought about that. Anybody else, Tracy? Was there any moments that really, they connected with you, or powerful moments that stood out to you in the film?
I would say there's a moment that stood out. I wouldn't say it was a powerful moment because it didn't powerful like it didn't like it was empowering, but definitely was my character that one of her lines, she said she was complaining to the cop. She was just complaining that he comes here every day and he's sleeping on people's porches and he's constantly begging for food, money, and water. And me, a person reading that script, it kind of tugged my heartstrings. Like every day, this man has to come out. Well, not has to come out, but every day, when she sees him, he's begging for food, money, and water. Like that's it. And she's just seeing that as I understand. I was, sometimes like, okay, here we go again with the same stuff. Why aren't you, maybe she's thinking, why don't you have a job or something? But for me, just off the bat, just reading it, even when I was saying the part, it was just like back to what I was saying at the beginning, just the disconnect from human to human, and us as as a society, like her just seeing him, not seeing his problems as she could see those problems as her own. Like I'm pretty sure she would want somebody to have some compassion on her if she was in his shoes, I'm pretty sure if he had a better place to stay, he wouldn't choose to hop porch to porch just so he could take a 30-hour nap, 30-minute nap or whatever his case was for the backstory for Luellen. But not only that, but, just having to constantly beg for food, except for her saying, you know what, he's not doing anything else, but he just asked for food and water, the basics for someone to at least go day by day, and just at least providing a snack or something like Mr. Luellen gave him $2 to find something. But that definitely stood out to me because it was just like, okay, how much are we so snapped into our world, even different situations besides homelessness, are we not connected to others and their struggle? Like how often do we are blinded to a basic human need, necessities and compassion. That's like, oh, here we go again with this person. But not seeing, oh, here we go again. I could help this person. Or here we go again. I could pull this person a little bit out of that dark space that they're in. She just complained about their dark space they're in, like it's something they chose or something he wants to be in. Obviously somebody that's homeless, 99% of the times, they probably, they don't want to be homeless. They don't want to have to beg a grown woman for some food and water. But she just sees it as 100% a problem, except for what she could offer as a solution, like Miss Luellen can. She's like, you know what, we can have a solution here. So that just stood out to me.
That's deep. That's very deep, and that's an excellent point. Yeah, like every day he's been, like she told the officer, he just stay begging for food, money, and water, and that's it. He's not begging for drugs, even though she lied on him and said that she think he on drugs, but he hasn't, like you said, he hasn't came, he hasn't harmed anybody, and for her to just make up her mind to go, I'm sick of this, I'ma just call the police. And then what Luellen says is that you always calling the police on people in this community. And it's like she's in a community, where she's literally has become that spy for the police in their community. And like you said, Tracy, that's deep because there is that thing about, the human connection. And I think a lot of people don't realize when their first option is to always, run and let me call the police on every little bitty situation. They don't see the danger that they put their community in, that person in, and also themselves in, when their first option is to just call the police, And I think that's a deep point about, where is our where's our connection as human beings to where we can identify with people's struggles, you know? Mo said,
oh, you see.
yeah, he said, did you want to read it, Tracy?
Okay, then you can answer. Okay. It says, hey y'all from 7 Houston. I like when Nikki mentioned how many people are in parade trial. Yep.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that was very important. So, you know, when I originally wrote it, I wrote it as a stage play, and then we turned it into a short film. And you know, Mo already knows that, you know, it came from the whole idea of this play really came from our Care Not Cages campaign. And what our Care Not Cages campaign is for Texas Advocates for Justice in Houston is that we're talking about, you know, people shouldn't be incarcerated because they're poor. People shouldn't be incarcerated because they have a mental health condition. They should be incarcerated because they're homeless or because they're addicted to drugs, you know, because they have a drug addiction. What these people need is rehabilitation services. They need help. They need resources, you know, instead of cages, because locking people up doesn't make us safer as a society, nor does it eliminate the factors that contribute to crime, such as poverty, you know, the lack of education, the lack of resources, you know. So locking people up hasn't done anything but just, like you said before, Dre and Tracy, and I believe Caribbean said the same thing too. Locking people up, it just throws people away. It's just, I don't want to deal with this issue. I don't want to deal with this problem. So the best way to do it is to lock them up, send them off to Louisiana, from Harris County to Louisiana, LaSalle, or LaSalle, Louisiana, or send them to Post, Texas, you know, because we want to get rid of the problem. But we don't want to get rid of the problem by actually having to do something. We want to get rid of it by, in Dorothy's case, you know, calling the police. You know, we don't want to sit down like Grandma Lunell said, sit down, talk with them, help them find a job, you know. But we rather just do what's easier for us, where, you know, like Tracy said, people aren't looked at as a nuisance, you know, because they're homeless. So, you know, as we wrap this up, so the last question right before we end our live is, I want to ask the cast, from their perspective, why should people watch the film Porch Conversation?
I just feel like, you know, the basis of the film is a hidden taboo. You know, you don't see a lot of people bringing awareness to the homeless community, you know, helping communities sticking together like, you know, Ms. Lunell and Dorothy did, just coming together. The film was about unity. Of course, it was a bit, you know, comedic and it had its dramatic parts, but more so, the takeaway message should have been about community. You know, community coming together to help one man who's just down bad, down on his luck. Because in reality, I think about it, a homeless person wasn't always homeless. You know, you don't just become homeless. It's a process you have to grow into. You know, hardships in life, trauma. You know, some homeless people are on drugs. They recover. They're trying to get back on their feet. So, and, you know, just I felt like all four characters had a heart. You know, Miss Lunell had a heart, Miss Green had a heart, the officer had a heart, Leland's heart was pure. So I feel like the overall takeaway message why people should watch it is, you know, just to see a community, what's the word, you know, just come together and be there for a certain cause. You know, it was just positive all around.
Yeah, definitely. For me, I would say, like what Jerry said, not only are these comedic moments and some dramatic moments, but for this film, Nikki definitely put it together really well, where, for me, as when I was reading the script and, you know, go back rewatching it, you have to see, okay, well, where did you put yourself, in whose shoes do you actually put yourself, you know, in, can you fit yourself in one of these characters' shoes? Like Miss Green, are you the antagonist where you see a problem, you're like, oh, I need somebody else to solve them? The cop that comes to solve it and just knows the facts that are given, and, you know, just tries to, like you said, throw somebody into prison to get rid of the problem. Leaving somebody that's in need, or your character, Miss Luellen, who is willing to help and actually build a community. So not only that, you see kind of like, okay, so we're not playing a part in society in this film that, there's only 4 roles, but you can see, okay, am I doing something about the problem? Am I sitting back and just, hoping somebody else will solve it? Or I'm actually, helping out. So not only that, but also, I was on the tip of my tongue. Also, oh yeah, the fact of a community. Like, Miss Luellen saw the importance of a community besides not only those who are wandering in the community, like, Leland, but also the community, the neighbor right next door, Miss Green, who they might have some conflict every now and then, you can see between the 2 characters, but she's still willing to see the importance of building that community and staying tight as a community. Like, okay, I see you struggling through, you need to get life being paid, and I was there for you. But don't put a blind eye when it's your problem, when you don't have, your hand open when it's your problem, but a blind eye when it's somebody else's, when your brother, just because he's in a darker situation than you might be at the time. So I guess that it just shows the community as, in this one film, it just, shows where we can be, who we might be as a community, where we can be, and probably where we don't want to be as a community as well. It just shows, it just gives a grasp of where I might try to grasp you a little bit, so where your mind is at, where it could be, and where you want to see the future. So it's a great film. I don't know if y'all saw a couple times I tried not to laugh. That last tape, I had to laugh. But anyways, it's just a great film, great characters, a great message. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I just want to say, can y'all hear me? I don't know. Okay, I think this Instagram so much, but yeah, y'all did an excellent job portraying those characters, and just like even hearing y'all feedback, because those of y'all who's watching it, we haven't had really a real talkback of how impactful this film was, but just seeing how we was able to just grasp the characters we were playing, how we just got the concept and understood it, and even hearing from y'all, like, it's just so deep, because it gives me even more insight. Even though I wrote the thing, it's like, wow, just seeing how deep it resonated with y'all. And I'm like, oh, that's why they killed their role. Like, it's why they did so good, because y'all understand the importance of it and the deepness of it. You know what I mean? And, just hats off to y'all as a cast. Y'all were excellent, from when we did the stage play, into when we did the film. They were both very impactful, and, those of you who haven't watched it, please go and look at the film, click in my bio on this Nikki L Films and Theater on Instagram. Click the link and go watch it, and give us some feedback and let us know what you think, because we got to support art that's meaningful, that's trying to change something, that's trying to raise awareness about something that means something. We're not out here singing, songs that don't mean something, or leading people astray, or really doesn't have anything to do with social justice. And also too, if you're not on Instagram and you're watching this via Facebook, later on when we put it up on Facebook, go to YouTube and type in Porch Conversation or short film, and you'll be able to see it. And also sign our Care Not Cages petition. Go to Texas Advocates bio on Instagram, and click on the link where it says Care Not Cages petition. And also on our YouTube, on Porch Conversation, on the video in the description, you'll also see a link to the Care Not Cages petition, because, while we do art, we also incorporate that with advocacy, so this art means something. We're leading somewhere with this, and we're trying to raise awareness so things will be changed, so people can rethink how they might have originally felt about something, and take a different take, which is more of an empowering approach instead of one that's self-defeating and one that's really destructive to our communities. But we appreciate all of you all for tuning in. Thank y'all for this talk. Thank you, Mo, for tuning in. And Mo says if we can't rescue them, we jail them. And so this is what this is about. We got to be willing to put those resources forward and fight for our community instead of, at the first sight of anything, somebody struggling, we call the police on them. So thank y'all for being here today. Dre, do y'all have any last words before we tune off, before we leave?
Let's look forward to part 2. Hopefully we be able to get a sequel going and continue this conversation going. Far beyond tonight. Porch Conversations part 2, 3, 4. There's definitely topics that we need to touch on that I feel like we can bring awareness to or help bring awareness to. But again, it's not going to take just us. It's going to take all of us.
Yes, definitely. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all. Hey, community. No, I'm playing.
Oh, man.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Take care.
All right.
And, give us some feedback, y'all. Whoever watching this live, So we gonna do part 2 for you.
I saw some people off and on. My sister was on, so she's probably busy, but I saw people come in and out.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I did too. So yeah, let's share it out, y'all. I'm gonna add y'all as collaborators on it so we can all share it out too. So
Okay.
all right,
y'all.
All right,
talk to y'all later.
All right.
Bye, y'all.
Love.